Friday evening, August 25th, and things are still pretty active in the tropics. We have 4 areas that we're watching for potential development, and then of course we have Tropical Storm Franklin. In the eastern Atlantic, these are the 3 areas that we're watching right now. The remnants of Emily, only about a 10% chance of development as we go through the next few days. It's getting caught up in a cold front, so that's not going to be an issue. And then this cluster of thunderstorms here that is south and east of Bermuda, about 1,000 miles from that island, only has about a 50% chance of development. Even if it does, it's going to stay in the central Atlantic and just be a fish storm, not any threat to land. And then over the next few days, we could see a tropical wave come here off the coast of Africa. Maybe about a 20% chance of development in the next week as it works its way there towards the west of the Cabo Verde Islands. We'll come back to this cluster of thunderstorms that has really been intensifying here across the western Caribbean. Pretty good chance that it is going to develop into something tropical as we go through the weekend or the early part of next week, and could pose a threat for parts of the Florida coastline. And then, of course, spinning here just north of Puerto Rico, still bringing some heavy rain through Puerto Rico. That is Tropical Storm Franklin, sort of just been meandering around. Has winds of 50 miles per hour, so it has weakened a little bit since it hasn't really moved. It's churning up the waters, which sort of brings up some of the colder waters from deeper down, and that means that the 80-degree water temperature doesn't really allow it to strengthen because it is a little bit cooler than that. But it is starting to move off towards the east-northeast. It's eventually going to turn to the northwest. Earlier it looked like maybe even as soon as Saturday it could develop into a hurricane. Now it looks like it might be late Sunday or into Monday and then strengthen into a Category 2 hurricane, but still passing west of the island of Bermuda. It's actually right underneath here and well east of the eastern seaboard. So we're not going to feel any effects from this system other than what we will see out along the ocean front. With the storm off the coastline and those swells, even starting as early as this weekend and likely and certainly continuing into early next week, we'll see some big waves, we'll see the high threat of rip currents, and there could be some issues of some beach erosion, minor, especially along the outer banks. The storm well offshore, but those swells will propagate closer to the coastline, and as they do so, we could see those red flags flying out along the beaches. Now as we head down here into the western Caribbean, that's that new area of investigation. We tracked it as it crossed out of the Pacific and across Central America, and it's now really starting to get fired up here. You can likely see all those thunderstorms here along the Yucatan Peninsula and into Cuba. And these water temperatures here are very warm. They're in the 80s. You can see 87 degrees, 87 degrees, 87. So very, very warm waters as this works its way here into parts of the Gulf of Mexico. And that could cause some strengthening as we get into the early to middle part of next week. Just starting to run computer models on it since it has just been classified as an area of investigation. So not a lot of them out there. You'll notice there are some that carry it here closer to Miami. Can pretty much ignore those, but I think this is a little bit of a better idea of what could happen with the storm as we head into next week. Some intensification here in the Gulf of Mexico, and then maybe making a run for the Big Bend of Florida, maybe a little bit farther to the west. The 2 major computer models that we use, the European and the American, differ a little bit as far as the forecast for that system. Here's the European model, typically usually our more reliable model, but it doesn't always nail things, and sometimes the American does a little bit better. But show you that the system's still developing as we go here through Saturday, Sunday over the Yucatan Peninsula, Mexico, into early next week. You can see those isobars, those lines of constant pressure starting to get closer together. That indicates an intensifying system here in the eastern Gulf of Mexico. This takes us into Tuesday evening at 10 p.m. And of course, there's Franklin out there well into the Atlantic. You can see that's pretty strong there west of the island of Bermuda. So this system working its way up here across Florida and then skirting along the eastern seaboard, passing south of Cape Fear, Cape Lookout, and Cape Hatteras, and intensifying off our coastline. That is the European model. This takes us into Friday of next week, so we still have a week to watch this system and several days, of course, to see what happens as it moves here into the Gulf of Mexico. Now let's switch over to the American model. Similar sort of setup, area of low pressure, nothing really well organized here through the Yucatan Peninsula. Mexico emerges here into the Gulf of Mexico, and then notice it's a little bit farther to the west than the European model. That one was closer towards the Tampa area. The American model brings it up towards the Florida Panhandle, up over Atlanta, and pretty much falls apart here over the Appalachian Mountains. So again, a lot of time to watch it. Either of these scenarios could happen. It could come here a little bit farther south and work its way out into the Atlantic Ocean, crossing over central Florida like a couple of those models said, or it could come a little bit farther to the west back towards Alabama. So a lot of time to watch it, but we'll keep an eye on it as we go through the weekend and of course have updates throughout the weekend on 13 News Now.